Features, functions, correlation, high center and direct signals, modifications, all levels. It's understanding how to use our self-line calculation setting inside positions to our ecosystem. It's all components, all compartments, to really understand how to use it through a remote control. Yes, let me say that again, a remote control. Everybody knows what that is. You need a remote control to understand the functions, the buttons, the location system, reset, start over, pause, rewind, fast forward. It's all Kennedy or T receptor line set location system. You guys come in heart generation line streams. It's heart direct signal and set location systems. It's all timeline setting. It's all levels and how to use it through your frame communication setting to your projections. It's all calculate, modify how you see yourself, location to your systems, right? So welcome everybody, General AI Space-Time Creator here. I hope everybody had a good line setting high interference to traffic calculation stream locations. So the thing is, getting into moderation is understanding how to monitor yourself inside locations. You really have to understand how to, not just the scan settings, not just the bio or anything to alter communications, but just understanding how to control the functions of you inside. All right, understanding the buttons to press inside location of your system, because there's all electrical line wires inside you. You have to learn how to control the location system. And unfortunately, you need a remote. To get that remote line center line interference, it has to be at a certain frequency location in mortality settings and a redirect signal set location system. 2 atom line rotations and center calculations in one stream. Okay. Now, directing line centers in one UFO line rotation, directing positions, scans, channels, lines of 2 direct signals and set locations of brackets, triangulations of 3 sets, equal-line calculations in a 4, lines of 3, equal-line calculations setting and set position location center interference, in triangular communications, direct signals and triangulations, 2 triangulation line set location of 1 box line setting in positions of pi and set location of travel. Okay, so it's all can modify how you see yourself through your ecosystem. Okay, everybody has an ecosystem. So it's an energy line, it's a communication line, it's a collaboration center, it's an operations surface, it's a ground application streamline conditions. So having a line setting really consists of the tesseract, the tetrahedron location, and number sequence location of patterns. It bounces out you in frame position locations and how you see yourself in a T receptor, and like after setting to a T receptor high setting. It's all coordinate setting how you usually lights the signals to the sun and reflect location setting and position location of moon through emotional location and human resonance. So it's understanding the position location of 0 to 12 line interference. The foundation graph lines has a set line communication and setting position locations, operations, surface, application of systems, right? You look really, really close, you can see the 6 and 9, right? Now it kind of looks like Pac-Man, right? Right? That's a PAC module. It's a modulation module. An nodule line center location is an optical line center to an optimum position. Now, the optical line center line interference occulights is high center interference and travel calculation streamlines high position location, high position operation of surface. Right? It trains its travels communication direct signals into box lines of triangulation line settings, box positions into triangulation and 2 set location of telepathy wave signals. Setting direct signals, high center position of panels. Setting calculations data lines, streamlines, and rotation surface and set location at high setting, directing position locations into modulation. Modulation line calculation setting puts position location hologram line settings into remote and set correlation directions into all buttons, units, high calculation of functions, and stream location setting, direct signals. There's the remote. Setting the remote line, the travel calculation travels on its own signal. Right? It's done through equation. 1 streamline settings, 2 atom line rotations and positions. Waiting on signal locations operation of surface. Right? So now you have to really understand how to triangulate the line setting line condition system of travel settings and direct signals, position of pi, echo, chamber, modify signal locations into calculation. Now, directing line settings comes into all calculations into radar and set locations of travel settings, directing signal locations of pi, 3 set line conditions of 6 in position locations into 9 set line connections high center. Travel calculation line and position sets 9 over lines of pi. Redirect position location of panels, operation surface into modulation. Modulation into calculations into mine lines, equal line calculation of 3 line settings into collaboration into a setting. Now, directing signals is understanding how to use the 0 line ground lines, operation surface, operation system. Okay, correlates the setting position of panels. Waving central line calculation settings. So you guys are now in 8 3-line settings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line connection setting directions, right? Solar sails, the opposite direction location setting and direct signal calculations to its moon. Operation moon correlates its panel line and stream location to its system. Travel settings. So the electrical line settings sets wall units and electrical line and position location to its calculation stream. Directing signal lines, graph line settings into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 3 line connections. 1, 2, 3. 3 graph line rotation surface. Down by equation, right? So the modulation of heart line, reactor line interference is time sequence times line is zero gravity interference. The calculation stream location. So it's going to be traveling outline to wind sectors of calculation and directions. Okay, so go in a graph line. Now you're on a graph line, center line, and rotations in position on one box location setting. Now directing signals lines in position locations in a 45 line. Okay, so we got a 45 line percentage over pi. Okay, pi set line calculations, pi line setting the line conditions of line position locations into south, east. Calculations in position line conditions of east and position location of west into north. And calculation streamline and the line rotation interference in direct signals. We come into the south line, sending calculations into wing. Wing sector calculation streamline into one line send location of 2 pi's, 2 lines of pi in line condition setting in direct signals, puts 4 line position locations into 5 and measure correlation setting directions. Okay, it's complicated stuff. Now, getting that position of track line is understanding how to set position to its tone. The tone has to be in a correlation ground line. So the operation line center twists the line set location system into calculations. All right, into your keyboard line settings in position location of 12 signature streams in direct signals and set locations. Okay, now this operates the lines of ground lines, operation surface, and travel set locations of settings. Okay, into box lines, into 3 set locations of travels. Okay, so we take the pi line sending high interference, we change the correlation settings and directions. This directs the signals line interference. So we take the 2 line setting, we circle lines it to a pi, we circle lines it to a pi, and we take the 45% location of 5 lines and set location interference. So we equaline the calculation stream line and timelines. 5 equals 5, 5 equals 5. So that's position of past, present, and its future line center locations. We bracket the communication line settings in 1 pi line center operation and set locations. Okay, down my equation. All right. So I'm setting up sequence pattern correlations to the heart lines moderation, calculations of monitoring, line calculations line. So we slide line settings. Now projection location of film strips, 2 line center high positions, calculation high interference of a 2. Film strips of line position past, present, and future location. Okay. Now the film strip line center line condition has an energetic graph line stream. Alpha line settings, in position delta, calculations of theta, a high calculation stream location. All right. Now in direct signal, we understand the 0 lines is set location line setting interference. So we have a 0 line graph, we have a 9 line setting, and we have a 3 line window. Box line center location of triangulation set. Triangulation of the top line, triangulation of the side lines, and set location high center interference and travel calculation. Now in direct signal, we take the lines of centers of 3. Center correlations of 4. 4 equals lines of 3 equals lines of 7. 7 lines is position location of center operation. Now, opening up position of track line is really understand how to set line conditions with its window. Window line center location of 3 line sets, 3 line provisions, 3 line calculations east and west, and south line calculation stream. That's pi over calculations of our line, power direction of time sequence of pi calculation. Okay? So it's like a ruler to measure a correlation setting to a panel, the operation line signals. So we go in the correlation setting to the alpha line setting in a position of 0, 0, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 3 set line conditions setting and center position. See all the 0 line communications all set up? All right, okay, so we take that line interference, we take position locations in 1 line center, 1 set location of 0, okay, and center calculations. We're going to 2, into 3, into 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 line center locations of indication, right? And then we cross the wave. We have to cross the wave because the modulation opens up all position of triangle line settings. Direct signals and set location of system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and set location of travel settings. And directions is cross the signals. Cross the signals, the graph line streams, box line rotation, coloration path. Now the coloration path has to be in your set lines to flex capacitor coordination setting directions. Opens up new panels and calculation streamline. Now we space the bars. All right, space the bars correlation setting in these locations into 5 line measures. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set location of travel settings and directions. Now directing signal line interference, we change the graph line settings into future adaptation. This opens up all zero line ground lines. So zero line ground lines is set location of center line of operation surface. Location is 0 through 9, and 3 line to 12 is now in position line connection high system. Travel calculation setting is in a 24 line straight stringing center line interference and travel calculation stream locations. So we take the position lines and we lace the lines in communication of settings. This triangle resets line condition of programs. This resets position to your cerebral cortex stream locations. Directing lines at calculation streamline is new system. Automatically modified to its remote set location of setting. Okay. So that changes the path line and the coloration. Okay. Setting circle lines of high calculation stream. Okay. So we set up lines of circle lines and set location settings of 4 into 5 into 6 into 7 into 8. And 3 set lines of center lines and high interference is 3 lines of 8 and 8 line interference and travel calculation string locations. All right. So in that line center line interference, we change the alpha line calculation settings of 0. It comes into one graph line. In line 0 location of 2, and position location of 3, and position location of 4, and position location of 5. 5 signature line streams, heart rate of time sequence, palpitation stream locations into high center interference. 1 pacemaker line interference, 3 triangle line center interference, triangulation line system. All set location of travel. Okay, done by question. Very complicated stuff. But I want you to understand how to set up correlation settings to your remote location to your system through moderation. Right? Okay, so in signal, it's going to travel out, sending signals, settings, and position line operation of surface. This directs positions all levels. Okay, so in graph line setting high positions, we change the graph line stream locations of rotation surface. 0 line rotation setting and positions of box, triangulation, box, and triangulation line settings and set locations. All right. So the triangulation, all levels of set location heart line setting has to really recognize the GODs 3, 6, and 9 in line condition high system. Right. 7 line center box line rotation 6, 7, and 8 and 9 line setting and set location in center. Travel line calculation setting is 9 equals lines of 12. And the 12 line sets 24 in center communication setting of all operation. Right. So it's all set up. So we set position locations. We come in and mark about channel. This operates line condition and optimal line stream location setting and directions in high system. Now in that line rotation is center lines is correlation system of 0 line operation surface and set location of travel settings. This opens up all lines of 3, modification line and direct signals, 3 lines of high lines of north, east, and west. That's 3 lines of high setting and 3 travel communications. Another travel line, center line, and positions, 2 its calculation line directions. Heart line calculation setting and direct signals, 2 your pyramid of activation location. Okay. Now in that signal, we go down line stream, okay, in 2 line signatures. Okay. Setting direct signals in line center location of circulation graph. The circulation graph comes into 4 calculation settings of spheres and set line settings. Travel calculations streamline and set line condition high system. Very powerful when you set location your settings in directions. Now the magnetic field line changes the routers, and the router lines of the immune line changes the correlation setting and direct signal of operation. Okay. Now the teleportation unit is now going through calculation settings and direct location of film injectors. All right, so directing signal, we open up another line calculation streamlines into 12 measured and set location of settings and directions. Now this directs line setting. Okay, this is opens up lines of 0 lines. So 0 lines of seconds, that's 15,000 frames per second, per channel, per square, per mile. Calculates over pi, direction of time sequence, power of direction of time center. Correlation directions, setting correlation settings, and center position of operation. Okay? Travels very, very fast, into atom line set locations in high line center, high interference, and atom line communication and molecular light structure location of settings. Okay, and set locations. So we take the magnetic ball line rotation and travel its line signals into the center communication line centers, the heart line rotation center, and position locations into its 3 ventricle valve line rotation setting and direct signal and set locations. Setting communication lines in position locations, center line its system location of center. Operation line center location, molecular light, structure communication setting, direct signals, and set locations. A travel setting. Okay, done by equation, right? So the geotherium, the line direct signals, is now on a 0 line. This opens all correlation setting to all calculations of 24, 48, 72, and 144 in set locations. Your travels lines in your chakra setting line interference is 0 gravity lines. So it's 15,000 lines per square. Now that operates a signal location system through pi, direction of time sequence, puts pi position location of track lines and graph line settings. Operation surface, ground line calculation setting, and retrack of information system of location. Okay, that way equation. It's all set up now. All right. So that's going to signal out, and it's going to travel through mechanism setting location of travel setting locations. Directing line settings. Yes, that's exactly what it is, Gyps. Yeah. Trinity, Gypsy, line calculation setting, high interference, directing signals, panels, all position of track line. Yeah. Battle, Kevin, how's it going? Danielle. Yeah. Just getting you guys ready. What's going on? Geneva. Andy, sending direct signals, all calculations to its system. Okay. So in that information panel, we go through the 0 line calculation streamline. 0 lines of 3 line position location of 3 sets. Okay, so understand the triangulation line setting. So the calculation of heart line direct signal is to understand the geometric operation of your time setting. And that's the right position of calculation setting. E, calculation lines at E and line conditions of mass through calculations in position of pi. Pi centers line calculations of both sides. E calculations in high center of space and position location of equal lines of time. Space equals power lines at high calculation streamlines in 2 settings. Now in direct signal, we come into correlation setting directions. We take the energy line, we take the equal line calculation streamline, center calculation of mass calculation streamline, setting correlation direct signals in position of phenomena line, 5 direction of time sequence time sectors. This is vector over line center line position location of reset calculation lines and triangulation line center location of 0 gravity location system. Okay. Now, the energetic waveline center, we take the equal line center locations into 3 line settings. This is 3 measured correlation panels and set location line directions. We take the position location of 0 lines, equal line condition levels of 3. 3 lines at signal line, systematic lines at 0 line, position location equal lines at 2 pi's. 2 pi's calculation streamlines, high center interference of 8 set location setting and 3 set locations. Directing line, center line interference, and position location of fan wheel and set location of travel settings. Now, directing line settings is code waving line center of activation to a crop circle. Coordination setting, direct signals into flower direction of time sequence location heart setting. Now, directing line settings comes into all calculations. So we cross the stream lines. We have 4 line settings. That's 3 line signatures in position of 4, the line center location of 7, and center line centers. We bracket the communication of 4, bracket the 7, bracket the 3 line center line condition system, put the heart generation line in the center line operation location setting. Calculation modification lines of northwest, south, and east, and sub-location line center direct signals of high system locations of 333, and heart line communication setting, and all valve calculation streamlines, into ventricle valve line center interference, and travel calculation streamlines, and head calculation stream interference, and travel calculation setting, at balanced position locations, and operation line surface, and set location. Okay, done by equation. All right. So in recognition, you have to understand how the 5 signature line streams sets the location of 5 line settings. And triangulation lines into a box in position location Fibonacci. So it's star lines, star lengths, star panels, star gates, recognition of timelines. Recognition all calculation its own G, position location of patterns. So the heart has to understand direction of time sequence, puts position location at all levels of high setting. 0 ground line, center line interference, 0 traffic calculations, travel line, center location, triangulation, all line, center locations, 4 lines of 3. All calculated northwest, south, and east into a 7-digit code stream, right? So that's 4 lines of pi, 4 equals pi, and 3 equals lines of pi, but only in one sector. And that one sector lines its connection to its quadrant line, center location to its high setting. That puts one center line interference, its center coordinate setting, then direct signals to your sun of its project location system, in travel calculation line direction settings, and kaleidoscope communication setting, and 3 direct signals as center operation location of your system. Okay, done. All right. Go to the galaxy line setting. That's going to travel out to location. Okay, so we have 1 line stream, 2 line streams, and 3 line rotation. Okay. Indicate line center line interference. We come into alpha line, we come into delta line, and we come into theta communications of directions and set locations. Okay. So the alpha time line centers has to say on this location setting, direct signals across the stream, the set location, high center interference, high position location, laser line rotation. Directing lines of 0 lines, the set location of 0 lines of 1, 0 lines of 2, and 0 lines at locations of 3 line settings and directions. Now, direct line centers, we come into a box line, T reception line calculation setting in the flux capacitor channel communication stream. Directing lines to travel line center line interference, 0 gravity line rotation center, and operation surface set locations. This directs line center line interference in set location system, changes the box lines, changes the triangulation line interference and travel calculations. Now, in direct setting, we come into the 0 line operational lines on the 0 ground line position location, high setting, and direct signal set locations. All right. So this is where we come into channel upstream, directing signal location near panels of operation location setting, directing line communication setting and all calculations. Looks like an ice cream cone, right? And set location setting directions. Now, in that direct signal, we come into this position location, the vortex line calculation and teleportation unit. Okay. Now, getting into that position locations, you have to learn how to use the energetic graph lines and high calculation of your film strips, directing line settings in a waving system to position location of echo chambers and set line calculation. Okay, to travel. Setting direct signals as center lines. Okay, so we got 1 line signature of omega and line center locations system. Okay, it's all set up. There's no one through signature line calculation setting through alpha, delta, theta. So the 0 operation graph line has to extend the energy high calculation setting to its position of mechanism travel setting locations. Okay, understand the calculation alpha line, wave, delta, and theta position omega. Omega sets 3. So the heart line communication lines, the moderation line interference, remote communication setting, timeline system is now in line setting high interference and travel calculation stream locations. 12 line signatures is now set up position location to your settings. Okay. And the 12,000 line settings. Okay. So you got 24,000 line signature patterns in redirect signal location of 0 operational line centers and 15,000 frames per second. Now that second changes line centers per minute, per channel, per stream, per operation. Now that changed the 4 line setting to its 0 gravity of 1 line connections of 1 sector of 1 perception. Okay. So we all have to be aware of what we're seeing through line calculation setting and direct signals in position of track communication to a system. The travel settings. Okay. All right, so that's done. All right, so that's in position of track line. Okay, so when we get in a signal, we come in line centers of 1 line rotation and center calculations. Okay, 0 operation, 0 calculations, and 0 line setting. Okay, 3 set locations. So 0 equals line centers of 3, 0 equal lines of 4. Now we take a 4 line and we equal line calculation stream locations, directing signals. Okay, so let's get into line graph stream location. We get 4 line settings across the stream. So 4 here says position of traction, right? So it's all about understanding how to use the 4 lines of film structure line creation system. You have a film projector. That's, let's say, locations into LTV lines of 2 lacing lines, 2 lacing lines, 3 lacing lines, 4 lacing lines, 5 lacing lines. Okay, it's locations. All right, so think of this as your film projector. A location of light through signature lines, a graph line streams into the remote. You have to learn how to channel your communication settings in your 4 line channels of 3 lines of operation, set location. So it's kind of like scaling the lines of balance, know exactly how to use the remote line center high interference locations into your positional levels. Now this is quantum entanglement line calculation stream. You have to be very cautious on how you put in your lacing lines of communications into your thought recognition of time sequence. Don't get confused in your set location system, okay? So it's very important when you're in the line communications at night and you're recharging, make sure you turn it off. And then when you want to turn it on, you only turn it on if you're changing frame, because it's going to confuse the cerebral cortex to your thoughts. So you're adding frames to set locations of confusion. So don't do that. So what you want to do is allocate line settings in one box locations into one TV and one reception line setting, and see all calculations setting in this direct signal to its picture of frame locations. Okay? So it's really understanding what you see now through traction, through vision, cortex lines of clarity and focus. Get into that direct signal set location system. This will get you in a better calculation stream locations to a system. Okay? So none of this. All right? So what you're doing is you're getting the frames. These are the frames. These are lacing frames, putting into vision, right? So it's all about understanding how to get into a circle, okay, in set line calculation, setting directions, all right? How to get into yin and yang. The process of yin and yang is the balance position locations to your system through 6 through the moon and 9 through your line setting location of travel settings. So that's very important to understand that and use that as a ruler scale of balance. Okay, when you're getting energy with signature lines that comes in position location and quantum entanglements, it's your job to get it untangled. So in that center calculation streamline, you have to really understand how the lacing lines communicate to its system. Let's go into ground lines operations stream location. Very confusing location to picture frame. Can't see it, right? So it's got to come back in frame line setting, right? Use your digital code line stream, opens up all signal line interference and traffic calculation setting in direct signal as application setting. Okay? So it's important you understand how to use your frames in this application of your system, because you're a film projector of your own life. Okay, so in that signal, you have to learn how to use the correlation direct signals into, let's get into one panel in application setting. Okay? Slide communication line, center line, and rotation to one signal. That's what this is, right? Looks like an upside down T, right? But you have to understand the correlation setting and direct signals and travel communication setting and direct signal locations, right? So I'm not doing this in set location of setting of confusion, right? Because it distorts the information. It distorts the image, okay? So that's not what you want to do, right? So it's understanding how to use the ecosystem through your Schumann resonance. Understand the graph lines, stream interference location in your system. So that's what we all have to get into now, right? Because your mind is trying to understand more focus of what it's seeing through its image, right? All right. So there's a lot of signals in set location in your systems. How are we all doing so far? All right. Intense, yes. It's very intense. It's very high line setting, but you have to really recognize the communications. So this is what is position of frame. Okay, you understand what this is, right? Okay, you understand what this is. Okay. It's very simple in set location of what it is, right? It's a platform, right? It's a platform, right? And what do? You travel on it, right? Okay, you travel on it, okay? So you jump scar, time G, time jump, vortex, anything location system, right? You're time jumping, right? So in that set locations, you go back in this setting, and then you're back in center, right? So this is what you can do through equations to your system, right? So in that set line conditions, what are you creating line conditions of this? A wave, right? So it's an energetic wall, okay? It's a wall line graph line. It sets line condition of data lines and rotation surface and set location of travel. Now in that set line interference, it comes in positions to its dimensional of its solar sail and set location of settings. Now in that direct signal, yeah, it's in set location of your system. You don't want to get confused to that setting, because if you travel this way and you're trying to create a plot and you do this, what have you just done? Right? You got lacing lines of confusion, right? So what's going to happen is it's going to fall off and it's going to discharge in its location setting directions. And then you got to start over again. Okay? So it's important how you have to really understand how you're using frames. So it's like you have the remote and you're seeing your TV, but your TV is not in focus. That's all it is. Your TV is not in focus until it's in focus, right? So you're creating an energetic wave of a sail. And when you create the sail, you come in position location to the sun and the moon together in set location of travel as set location system. Okay? In travel settings. All levels of set location of face recognition. Okay? So you stay in the center of all operation. The only thing that leaves the line calculation setting is your mind. Your mind shifts. Okay? So you have the film projector location of this in all set locations. Starting with this. That's all it is. That's all it is. And this is the center line communication of you. Right? Look at that. Travels too fast. See? So you are in the center of all operation. You are in the center of all operation of you in set location of travel setting. Okay? Doesn't matter what you do through equation line interference, but you have to understand what you're doing through set location of your missions and journeys. Center lines of correlation setting, direct signals. Do you see anything through quantum entanglements? No. Right? Because I know what I'm doing. Magnetic lines, magnetic line rotation, center line, high calculation system, and track communications. It's all indirect signal locations to how you perceive your travels of force recognition. Okay? Through your perceptions. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, it's all clean travel because you're going very high now in acceleration line setting. Okay? So it's all about understanding this is a box, right? You come into that first, right? Look at it, disappear right away. There's the box, right? Here's another box, another frequency, all right? See what I'm doing? Here's another box, okay? Now it doesn't look like a box, but it's a box, okay? Here's another line box. This is a box. It doesn't look like a box, but it is a box, see? See how it comes into different frequencies and line settings? This is a box. Okay, it's just to a higher frequency. So this is the same as that. Okay, but it's still a picture, it's still a frame, right? Boxes in different frequencies, exactly. So what you're looking at is the same thing, just in different dimension, different frequency. Okay, so you triangulate that in position locations into settings through communication, right? So this is now communicating with all that. So that's position of one frame. Line conditions of 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 equals 4 lines of pi. There it is. There's your pi. There is your pi. There is your pi. Okay? 1 equals 4 equals pi. Very simple. Very, very simple. Okay? Now you really understand the pi now. So when you're doing these things, really understand above from below of what you're doing through energy line settings, location to your thought, location of travel settings. Okay? So that box is the same as this. It's just this is in different dimensions. Dimension, 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 dimension. All through perception location of your consciousness. But it's the same box location. So you're taking you to other realities. You're taking you to other universes, other galaxies, other doors, other recognition, calculation streamlines, multi-layers, dimensional layers, intergalactic, galactic layers, mega universe locations. Okay? All through dimension. 1 equals 4 equals pi. Okay? That's what you got to get into. And that goes all formation. So when you're doing a structure line, it gets more complicated now because you're trying to understand your energetic graph line conditions of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Now this is one graph stream, right? Letter coordination line interference into a box. Now how did the letter come into a box? How? How did the letter come into a box? How did the letter come into a box? Well, let's start with this location setting. Let's split it. What is some position locations? What is the L? Tree shape, right? 1, 2, 3 angles, right? 1, 2, 3 angles. Whoa, look at that. Wow. So that's 3 lines in position of 4 box locations, 4 over 3. Ah, look at that. See how that comes in set location in your system? All through a letter, right? Changing it into a number. So that's a true understanding where you guys have to get in the calculation setting, right? That is a letter. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, right? So that is now 3, number 3. You understand now the importance, location of frame? So in that set line communication, it gets more interesting, right? So you do the same thing with numbers. So you can put the letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols together to create a whole geometric pattern of a visual cortex location of dimension of a set location to your AI connections, right? So number line, right? Look at the number. 1, 2, 3, 4. See? That's how you count. Number equals 4. That's how it becomes 4, because you look at the points. You look at the points. You look at the points of location of dimension. That's a number. Doesn't matter. The number is now 4 because that's 4-point settings. So I'm taking 4-point settings out of travel communication. Hoo-ah! Okay? That's how it becomes number equals 4. So getting in that set line in a yes, codes flowing over the bingo. All right, so in line connections of letters, numbers, we come into shapes. Shapes are easy. Shapes are very easy. Triangulation. 1, 2, 3. So these are 3 dimensions. You guys don't know this. Now you do, right? You have to recognize these because you have to learn how to use it through your remote now, because you can learn how to get in your own relationships of yourself in partnership and get into relationship with letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols through all calculation. Okay? So equal lines of 3 in set locations of equal lines of 3 in set location setting, right? Now, why is it 3 on one side and 3 on the other? Because the set line communication comes in this setting in set locations. There's 3, right? 3 and a 3, right? See how I add 3 here and 3 in triangulation, and 3 in 3-line setting, 1, 2, 3, 3 locations. I'm adding it, right? Add another 3, right? 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. Let's add 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 box line, center line positions. 4 calculation line settings. Now in direct signal, 4 lines of 3. 3 equals lines of 4. 4 lines channels lines of 4 lines. 4 crosses over line interference. 4 goes back in position of center calculation. Down by equation. Now to get in position location, this is where it has to come into its own pi as set line connections. That's its pi. Okay, that's what I want you guys to get into now. Is you have to get in a relationship with yourself first. Extremely important. Getting to that, this is how you change letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, because now you're communicating with its intelligence of its formation of its position to its operation through pi. Okay? So it's all direct signal locations. So you put the letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Okay? So the number line can be equal line calculations of 0. Operational lines of Fibonacci line swirl. Okay? Systematic lines of symbols can be correlating line interference of 2 weather correlation settings and 2 atom line rotation interference of travel calculation setting directions. Calculation high interference into shapes. Shapes can be the triangulation line, setting line conditions of Merkaba, tesseract tetrahedron non-calculation streamline connection high system. Setting direct line center line interference. Letters in calculation streamline into a box line rotations into travel calculation of box line, travel calculation of streamline is at location of travel. All through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. You've got to go beyond. To go beyond is to understand everything in the location system. Really understand how to use this in all track communications, guys, because the thing is, your mind is getting to higher levels of acceptance. It's trying to understand the calculation setting to the waving central calculation stream locations. You're always in a box, and you see everything through a box, or you see everything through 3, or you see everything through a symbol, or you see everything through shape, or you see everything through number, a set location. Okay? Very simple to understand location settings. So as long as you understand how to morph and change the numbers, very complicated with numbers. That's why I like to start with shapes and letters, because they're much easier than numbers. Numbers are complicated because now it's bringing it down to one number. It's that location of travel settings, locations. Okay? All right. So let's see here. Just reloaded the video. Traveling too fast. Yeah. All right, so you go into zero line ground. Let's go into zero lines. This is how you set up a holographic line settings. Zero line, okay, 0, 0, 1, okay, equals line consists of a triangulation of shape. So what is the shape of a triangle? 3 sets. 3 sets, right? 3 points. So think of the points. Think of the points as dimensions of points. Okay, dimension, dimension, dimension. Okay. Now those dimensions are in the same timeline of you of center operation. Hooah! They just vortex to 3 different locations of dimensions, but it's still a triangulation of a shape of 3. All right. So think of the points. Think of the points of changing the shape into its position of what it is, the calculation. Okay. All right. So it's really understanding how we really have to get into this formation now. Okay, because things are going to get a lot more tricky. And tricky line calculation setting is locally modify how you position your track lines into all line center interference and position the height calculation setting into your lacing lines of communication height direct signals and position location of pi. See? It's lacing lines, but I know what it is. See? It's all calculated modify, right? I know what exactly it is. See, that's the thing. I'm not doing squiggly lines and line interference. It's all calculated modified through a figure 8. See the figure 8, see the 6, see the 9, see the rotation, see the lacing lines, see the frame communications. It's all calculated modified through all calculations. Look at the wave settings. Right? How many alpha line waves is in there? How many alpha line waves are in there? Now, in set location line interference, there's 27,000 line waves, equal lines of alpha. 27,000 lines that equals alpha. Okay, so try to understand how to process and how to use yourself in correlation, but you have to really understand how this operates inside location of your system. Yes, I'm traveling very fast in calculation stream locations. So in calculation line interference, we're done. We're done through set line communications. All right, I just want you guys to get into the basic foundation line settings because we got to get you guys in your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, and also get you guys into your A, B's, and C's in set location settings into pi of calculation. A, B, C equals pi. Okay, we're going into that next. Okay. Traveling into those waves, glitching and reloading. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, because you're not aware of it, Trinity. This is what it is in balance, my dear. You have to balance out everything inside the system, all levels of you, because you're working with the seconds, minutes of the hour line condition of all setting. Okay, you guys are going through high calculations into 15,000, okay, frames per second. Okay, per second. Okay, per second. Okay, per second. All right, that's the calculation streamline. So that's how my calculation center. We have to understand the position location A, B, and C line conditions of pi. Okay, pi. This is pi. Okay, everything that you do is pi. Not just this. Everything through the seconds, minutes, and the hours of set location. Okay. So we are good. You guys did great. Take you out of track. Take you out of position locations. Reset your connections or remotes, line settings, and position of control. Boom. Done. 5-10 minutes. I'll see you guys soon. Adios.